Good afternoon, welcome to Market Wrap number 217. Stuart Williamson here at the helm. Right, before we dive in this week into the topic, which is private landlords no longer profitable. Is buy-to-let dead? I want to just say 77% of the people who are watching this don't subscribe. Please do subscribe, and then you'll get our fun knowledge every week. Hear about what we're talking about, what our 30 years of experience in working in the residential property market, helping people buy and sell their properties, what it tells you. We're here to help. So, is it really dead? Well, I take an article this week from a gentleman called Charlie Bryant, who's the head of Zoopla's parent company, Houseful. And he says that being a private landlord in the UK is no longer viable. He says taxes and red tape have made it not worthwhile. There's too many competitive aspects, and the Labour government's approach is going to kill it off. So I read this article, and obviously like a red rat or a bull to me, because I hate these swathing statements where people just say, this is what's going to happen. No one knows what's going to happen. Reported last week about Andrew Bailey being interviewed in the BBC, and he said, we don't know what's going to happen. No one does. So you can't make these statements. You need to look at the background information. Is it no longer profitable because of interest rates, as Mr. Bryant says? Well, last week interest rates were cut, so interest rates will fall, and in general the view is it'll be 3.5% over the next 5 years. He says there's no longer any tax benefits because they got rid of the offset you used to have, the MIRAS, mortgage interest relief at source. Buy through an SPV, you can get MIRAS still, and plus many other tax benefits. So use your own allowance first, then use an SPV. That's a good way to go. Increase of stamp duty has meant a lot of landlords don't see it as worthwhile getting in. Well, offshore it's 5%, not 3%, and people are still buying because they appreciate you put 30% down, then the tenant and inflation will pay off the balance. And that's the key point to it. In addition to that, he mentions that other asset classes are better. Well, I agree, having a balanced approach is important. Having some stocks and shares, having some cryptos, having some bonds, having some wine, having a car collection, all those things are good and they can all balance it out. Property is a core asset class that has done very well. Price of properties in year 2000, £75,000, 2024, 285 is the average. That's a growth of 290%. The FTSE in 2000 was 6375, it's currently over 82. That's 28%. Inflation has been 81% over that period. So real housing prices have not gone up that much, but they've certainly beaten stocks and shares. And okay, buying a property can be hard work, hence you have to be very careful with it, get a good tenant, get a good manager. But as a balanced portfolio, it does very well. Rising institutional investors. Okay, the build-to-rent sector. The build-to-rent sector in the UK at the moment is about 80,000 properties on the go, compared to 4.9 million residential properties. What is build-to-rent? It's the big institutional pension funds and banks coming in, buying big blocks and renting them out purely, and they take the income from it. It's a huge thing in the US, it's big in Europe, and a lot of it is based around the 15-minute city concept, where you want to live in a good quality residence, 15 minutes from where you work, 15 minutes from where the kids go to school, 15 minutes from good facilities, sports facilities, food, drink, entertainment. And so having those facilities even in the block are what people are looking for. And that in the US, because people can no longer afford to get onto the housing ladder because of all the debt they're burdened with from college, plus how much things have gone up, has meant people do this. And it is something that will come into the UK and it will be huge. But it doesn't mean that it's going to squeeze out the single buy-to-let investor. It's a complement, and it's got a huge way to go yet. There's 1.2 billion investment activity 2024, of which 816 million was single family housing. That's hardly anything compared to what is going on in the buy-to-let market for individual dwellings. So the Labour government's housing plans, what are they? Build 1.5 million homes across the country, try and reduce migration, increase the number of build-to-rent, increase social housing. So those are the plans. So how could this affect your home and your investment? It's a great article here from a gentleman called Christian Hilder, Professor in Economic Geography at the London School of Economics. He says even if the incoming government were to deliver and were successful in creating a building boom, it is unlikely to have a dramatic adverse effect on prices. We haven't built enough houses for 40 to 50 years now. 1 or 2 years of building boom won't reverse that. We need a sustained, substantial increase in construction over several years to achieve that. I think, he says, it's more likely that increased construction numbers would have a small dampening effect on the long run house price growth. Welcome in terms of housing affordability, but these are moderation effects rather than dramatic ones. So will it have an effect on my house price? Will my buy-to-let not go up in value? No. He says the supply of homes is inelastic, which basically means that they're going to cancel each other out. The government's plans, although welcome, and they should be doing a lot of social housing. One of the biggest mistakes Margaret Thatcher ever made was selling off all the council homes. We've now got a massive shortage of social housing, which is then putting a burden on local governments and the central government to pay for expensive private rental accommodation for people who should be in lower cost social housing, not lower quality, lower cost, that the government has built themselves. But it's not. I mean, you see, for example, asylum seekers being put on barges on the south coast, or hotels. They shouldn't be like that. They should have enough social housing to look after them. And the sort of social housing they do have that's managed by some of these big corporations is just not great quality. So building more of it is a crucial thing. But the point is, if you build it, it's not going to affect your house price. So the points he makes is that A, decline of private landlords will occur because mortgage rates are falling, because taxes are taken away, because there's a lot more red tape. Yes, there is a lot more red tape. There's 200 rules now compared to 5, I think, when I started off. But the point is, a savvy business-like landlord deals with it, works with a good agent to get over it, and it's no problem with it. That is not a risk. Is it a risk that build to rent will then build out the whole buy-to-let environment? No, it's not. It's a complement to it, and it will work well in hand. Will the government's housing plans blow out all growth on future property in the UK? No, because it's too little and it's too late, and it's probably misdirected a lot of it. And the housing market itself, with 600,000 net people coming into the country last year, after 1 million came in, 400,000 left, that net migration is still going to mean that people are going to be wanting houses to live in. So what do we need to do? I do agree with the gentleman when he says that we have to have some changes to first-time buyers housing reform. In Australia, where I am at the moment, you have 28 days to complete on a property. You don't get involved in long chains. It's a case of, with a chain in the UK, if one person drops out, you've paid all the legal fees, boom, you've got to start again. We should get rid of that and have basically the same concept. You've got 28 days to buy it. If you don't buy it, you get a penalty or you negotiate an extension. What you do is not dependent on what someone else does. So a change of that. Rather than having, can they afford to pay this mortgage, let's look at other factors like, have they paid their rent on time, regularly, on a regular basis? Therefore, do they get a point system for that? That would encourage people to be more respectful of rental contracts because they know it's going to affect their mortgage in the future. I think that's a good idea. To a certain extent, I do with my kids. They say, can I borrow some money, Dad? I say, yeah, you can borrow it, but if you don't pay it back on time, then the next time you ask, I won't lend it to you. I know it's very simplistic, but it's not a bad idea to do it. So, Mr. Bryant says, introduce rules to shorten transaction periods and broaden access to land registry data to streamline the process. Yes, he's got some good ideas there. But overall, this coming from Zoopla, who are one of the people with a lot of flesh in the market, because they're a commercial company trying to make money, is quite extraordinary. It's misguided. The private landlord is not dead. The market is still vibrant. There's some great places to buy. It needs tweaking, fixing, and needs more property being built, specifically in the social nature. And it needs the government to change the way they do things to help builders build. I mean, that idea from a couple of weeks back about the Canadians have, where the government is giving cheap loans to builders to help them build social housing. What a fantastic idea. I mean, we've blown enough money in the UK on bringing managers into the NHS to manage a system that's broken. Why not spend it elsewhere? So there we go, that's it for this week. Micah Rap 217. Hope you enjoyed it. Please do comment. Let me know what your thoughts are on it. Do you think buy-to-let is dead? Do subscribe, because a lot of you don't. Thank you very much. Cheerio.